Okay, folks, this is about Samantha Powers and the Syrian troop strike. I am joining the chorus of outraged Americans about the response of the United States ambassador to the UN. I'm going to take this one point at a time. I encourage everyone to download her talk that you can see at the link below. And because lots of times they'll remove things when they don't want to be held to account for the statements that they make. I'm also going to be reading from my notes because I'm not a YouTube hotshot, at least not yet. So here we go. I'm joining the chorus. I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of people on YouTube talking about this because it's very, very important. First, she says that they are still gathering information. Well, if they planned an attack and carried out the attack, shouldn't they already have the information? She's insinuating that someone might be lying about this. Okay, so in regards to the dead soldiers, her comment is, "Sorry about that. We're looking into it." Translate: we are coming up with a good story about why we did it. She immediately goes back to the neocon agenda of removing yet another democratically elected leader from power by force. This is blatantly illegal. You want to call Russia hypocrites? With the United States history of blood and bombing and destabilization that has been going on not just since 9/11, but further back than that. 9/11 was just the latest excuse for breaking international law and committing mass murder. If you really want to know how the Syrians feel about Assad, you should look it up on YouTube. You can start at my channel, the link is below. It's still in progress, that channel, it's still under construction, but the playlists are there so that you can get started on doing the work that you need to do. Ms. Powers then goes straight to talking about an Assad regime. They always call it a regime because when you call it a regime, well, when you lead with that, then you can say anything after that. Again, this is standard operating procedures. We've seen it again and again. They demonize, then they kill. Everything she accused him of doing, the United States has done. We're destroying Iraq's infrastructure, starving and destroying the water supply in Iraq, leading to the deaths of thousands of children. It has already been confirmed that it is the terrorists who have been stealing humanitarian aid and then selling it back to the people, to the who were supposed to receive the aid. The terrorists have been doing that, not the Assad administration. American double taps have been documented and presented in video form to the public thanks to Bradley Manning. The U.S. routinely used dirty radioactive bombs in Iraq on innocent civilians and on our own troops, for God's sake. Again, you can see the proof and photographs on YouTube if you have the stomach for it. Torturing people? Who exactly, Samantha? Who exactly are they torturing? You can't just say people. In Iraq, U.S. troops rounded up thousands of suspected terrorists, jailed them, and refused to inform family members of where they were. This is in direct violation of international law. I know this because a doctor from Iraq came to speak to my class at the Evergreen State College. She and others were going to Washington, D.C. to ask Congress to help them convince the U.S. military to follow international law and stop holding their loved ones incognito. Is that what you mean, Ms. Powers? The U.S. has hit hospitals in Syria. Remember the Red Cross incident? She is outraged that Russia is not outraged at Assad's alleged behavior because, just like weapons of mass destruction, we have all talk and no evidence. Maybe they did not express outrage because Assad never did these things in Syria. That's a possibility. Russia did call for and support an investigation of the chemical weapons, barrel bombs in Syria. It was an international investigation, and it was determined that it was the terrorists who used the homemade bombs, not Assad. They got the supplies from Turkey, a U.S. ally. They also participated in the investigation of the plane that was shot down over the Ukraine. So Ms. Powers says, focus on Assad. Believe every lie I tell you. Don't you dare look at all the crimes the U.S. has been committing for years. What would the neocons have done if Russia or Syria killed 60 American soldiers? Someone also made a good point on the comment section of the site where I first saw Samantha Powers talk. And they said, well, if it was an accident, why didn't the United States call an emergency meeting? To explain themselves and to express true regret. There is a whole history of lies and damned lies that you can find online. You can start with my YouTube channel. Ms. Powers says Russia should cooperate in meaningful action against Assad. Translate, more deadly sanctions and outright murder of elected officials. She cares about the Syrian people. Okay, first you start the conflict by using snipers at peaceful protest. You fund and train the terrorists used to invade Syria from Iraq and other places. You support Turkey in keeping the borders open for their free access to Syria. You invade the place with a coalition of troops. You add to the refugee crisis and somehow allow it to flood into Europe, which is another destabilization tactic. And we use truces as an opportunity to allow the terrorists to regroup. The Syrians had a life before the neocons showed up. Now listen, America. None of this is crazy. I give you 3 documents. Oded Yanan Plan, Clean Break, and the PNAC papers that talk about full spectrum dominance. I don't know if I have all those titles exactly right, but they are all in the playlist on my YouTube site. Those 3 documents explain it all. This is a plan. This is not crazy. This is not an accident. This is not a miscommunication. This is a plan. Full spectrum dominance of every nation, including Russia. Why they get away with this? Because they can. If more citizens knew that fascists had control of our tax dollars and what they were doing with it, it would stop. They think that regular people are just rabble, unable to run their own lives. This is part of the neocon belief system. They dehumanize everybody, so everybody is killable. That means you too. So what you have to do is stop watching TV, do your homework, You can start at my YouTube channel and become qualified to run your own country. The media keeps us out of the loop. That creates a power vacuum that the ruling elites fill. You must occupy your own place and push them out. Samantha Powers is a criminal. All the warmongers are criminals. Making vast wealth off of war is criminal. Lying to the public is fraud, and this very much includes the journalists who repeat the lies. Using our tax dollars without our permission to mass murder innocent people directly or by proxy through the terrorist is theft, fraud, and a crime against international law and a crime against humanity. The neocons who have stolen our government have done 100 times worse than they claim Assad to have done. Based on her own obvious outrage and by her own account, Ms. Powers should go out and shoot her own self in the head. We need regime change, all right. Right here, right now. P.S. Presidents are a part of this, but they have very little control. The people doing this are not elected. You will not vote this away. Only you can do this. You must do your homework. Get your briefing and become qualified to take your country back. Otherwise, you are just rabble. All power to the people. Long live the United States of America.